The morning sun barely peeked through the clouds as Lily rushed through the crowded airport terminal. She was running late, something that almost never happened in her 8 years as a flight attendant. Her alarm had failed her. The subway had been delayed, and now her perfectly ironed uniform felt slightly wrinkled from her sprint to employee check-in. "Cutting it close today, aren't we?" Tom, the check-in supervisor, said with a raised eyebrow as she swiped her badge. "Won't happen again," Lily promised, trying to catch her breath. "Is the crew already boarding?" "Just started. You've got about 10 minutes. Lily hurried through security with practiced efficiency, her mind running through her usual pre-flight checklist. It was going to be a full flight from New York to Los Angeles, nearly 6 hours of non-stop work with a crew she hadn't flown with before. Not ideal, but she'd handled worse. In the crew lounge, she quickly freshened up, straightened her navy blue uniform, and pinned her wings just so on her lapel. The reflection in the mirror showed tired eyes, but Lily had mastered the art of hiding exhaustion behind a warm smile. It was part of the job. "First time flying with Captain Reynolds?" asked another flight attendant who was applying lipstick at the sink beside her. "Is it that obvious?" Lily laughed. "He's tough but fair. Just don't be late to the pre-flight briefing," the woman said with a wink. Lily made it to the briefing room with 2 minutes to spare. Captain Reynolds, a tall man with salt and pepper hair and the stern face of someone who'd been flying since Lily was in elementary school, gave her a nod that somehow managed to be both welcoming and a warning. The pre-flight briefing was standard: weather conditions, mild turbulence expected over the Midwest, passenger count, completely full with 12 unaccompanied minors, and special needs passengers, an elderly gentleman requiring wheelchair assistance and a woman with severe nut allergies. Lily took notes diligently, as she always did. "Let's have a good flight," Captain Reynolds concluded. "Wheels up in 40 minutes. The boarding process was chaotic, as it always was for cross-country flights. Business travelers with too many carry-ons, families with young children, elderly passengers needing extra time, all funneled through the narrow jetway into the even narrower aisle of the aircraft. Lily stood at the entrance, greeting passengers, with her practiced smile, directing them to their seats and helping stow luggage in the overhead bins. It was a dance she'd performed thousands of times, yet she still found genuine pleasure in these small interactions. "First time flying?" she asked a nervous-looking teenage girl. "Is it obvious?" the girl asked, echoing Lily's earlier words. "Only a little," Lily winked. "You're going to be just fine. If you need anything, just press the call button above your seat." The girl smiled gratefully and moved on, her shoulders visibly relaxing. Boarding was nearly complete when Lily noticed one of the gate agents escorting a small boy down the jetway. He clutched a worn teddy bear in one hand and a small backpack in the other. His eyes were red-rimmed and puffy, as if he'd been crying recently. "This is Ethan," the gate agent explained quietly. "He's flying as an unaccompanied minor to meet his father in Los Angeles. He's seated in 14F. Lily crouched down to the boy's eye level. "Hi, Ethan, I'm Lily. I'll be taking care of you during our flight today." Ethan nodded silently, his grip on the teddy bear tightening. "And who's this?" Lily asked, gesturing to the stuffed animal. "Buddy," Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible, over the ambient noise of the aircraft. "Well, it's very nice to meet both of you," Lily said warmly. "Let me show you to your seat." She took Ethan's small hand and led him down the aisle to his window seat. She helped him buckle his seatbelt, made sure Buddy was secure beside him, and explained how to use the entertainment system. "I'll check on you once we're in the air," she promised. "And if you need anything at all, you press this button right here, okay?" Ethan nodded again, his eyes wide as he took in the unfamiliar surroundings. The final preparations for takeoff went smoothly, and soon they were climbing through the clouds. The seatbelt sign remained on longer than usual as they encountered the forecasted turbulence. Lily and the other flight attendants remained seated, occasionally exchanging glances as the aircraft bumped through rough air. When the captain finally turned off the seatbelt sign, the cabin erupted into activity. Passengers lined up for the bathrooms, others stretched in the aisles, and the call buttons began to chime throughout the cabin. Coffee spilled in 32D. Passenger feeling airsick in 18A. Crying baby in 27B. Mother requesting assistance. The demands came rapid fire, and Lily moved efficiently through the cabin, addressing each situation with calm professionalism. By the time the drink service began, she'd already handled a dozen minor crises. The cart felt heavier than usual as she pushed it down the narrow aisle, offering beverages and snacks to rows of passengers who barely looked up from their screens to acknowledge her. Still, Lily maintained her smile, made small talk when it seemed welcome, and tried to make each brief interaction pleasant. As she approached row 14, she glanced over at Ethan. The boy was still staring out the window, his forehead pressed against the plexiglass, Buddy clutched tightly to his chest. He hadn't touched the entertainment screen. "Apple juice for you and Buddy?" Lily asked, pausing at his row. Ethan turned from the window, his eyes now visibly wet with fresh tears. He nodded silently. Lily poured the juice and placed it on his tray table along with an extra package of cookies. "Special treat," she said with a wink. The woman in the aisle seat leaned toward Lily. "He's been crying on and off since takeoff," she whispered. "Very quietly, though. I tried to talk to him, but he won't respond." Lily nodded in thanks and continued with the service, but her thoughts kept returning to the boy. When the initial service was complete and her colleagues were handling the cleanup, she took a moment to check on Ethan again. His juice remained untouched, and silent tears were now streaming down his cheeks. Lily felt a pang in her chest. In her years of flying, she'd seen countless unaccompanied minors, but something about Ethan's silent suffering struck a chord. She slipped into the empty middle seat beside him. "Hey there," she said softly. "Not thirsty?" Ethan shook his head, still not making eye contact. "Can I tell you a secret?" Lily asked, leaning in conspiratorially. "I was really scared the first time I flew on a plane." This caught Ethan's attention. He turned slightly toward her, his tearful eyes questioning. "It's true," Lily continued. "I was about your age, and I thought the noises the plane made were so strange and scary. And the way my tummy felt during takeoff, I didn't like that at all." "Me too," Ethan whispered, the first words he'd spoken since boarding. "My tummy feels funny." "That's completely normal," Lily assured him. "Even grown-ups get that feeling sometimes. It's just the plane saying hello to the sky." A ghost of a smile flickered across Ethan's face. "Are you flying to visit someone special?" Lily asked gently. The smile disappeared as quickly as it had come. "My dad," Ethan said, his voice cracking. "But I miss my mom already, and my dog." "That's hard," Lily acknowledged. "It's okay to miss people we love. I bet your mom and your dog miss you too, but I also bet they're really proud of you for being so brave today." The plane hit another patch of turbulence, and Ethan's small hand shot out to grip Lily's arm. His eyes went wide with fear. "Just a little bumpy road in the sky," Lily explained calmly. "Like when a car drives over potholes, nothing to worry about." The turbulence continued, and the captain turned the seatbelt sign back on. Lily knew she should return to her jump seat, but Ethan's grip on her arm tightened. "Please don't go," he pleaded, his voice trembling. Lily glanced toward the front of the cabin where the lead flight attendant was watching her with a frown. They were short-staffed as it was, and protocol dictated that she return to her assigned position during turbulence. But looking at Ethan's frightened face, Lily made a decision. She signaled to her colleague that she was staying with the unaccompanied. Minor quickly buckled her seatbelt and turned her full attention to the boy. "How about I tell you about all the places this plane has been?" she suggested. "This very airplane we're sitting in right now has flown all over the world. It's seen mountains taller than clouds and oceans that stretch farther than you can imagine." The plane bounced through the turbulent air. Lily spun tales of far-off destinations, of beaches with sand like sugar and forests with trees that touched the sky. Slowly, Ethan's death grip on her arm relaxed, and his tears dried up. He even took a sip of his apple juice. Little did Lily know, as she comforted this ordinary-looking little boy with extraordinary kindness, that her simple act would soon change the course of her life forever. For Ethan wasn't just any child, and his father waiting in Los Angeles wasn't just any parent. But for now, in the gentle cocoon of Seat 14F, none of that mattered. What mattered was that a frightened child found comfort in the kindness of a stranger who chose compassion over convenience, humanity over protocol. And sometimes, that's how the most extraordinary stories begin, with one person choosing to be kind when they didn't have to be. The turbulence finally eased, but Lily stayed beside Ethan. She had broken protocol by remaining seated during what should have been active service time, but something told her this child needed her more than the passengers waiting for their. "Have you ever been to Los Angeles before?" she asked, helping Ethan open his package of cookies. He shook his head, carefully taking a small bite. "Dad moved there after." His voice trailed off, and he stared down at Buddy the teddy bear. "After what?" Lily prompted gently. "After he and Mom stopped being married," Ethan explained with the simple directness only children possess. "They yelled a lot and then Dad went away. Now I have to visit him for 2 whole weeks." Lily nodded, understanding flooding through her. She'd seen this scenario countless times, children shuttled between divorced parents, often confused and upset by the arrangement. "You know," Lily said thoughtfully, "I was about your age when my parents stopped being married too." Ethan looked up at her, genuine surprise on his face. "Really?" "Really. And I had to fly by myself to visit my dad too." "Were you scared?" "Terrified," Lily admitted with a small laugh. "I cried the whole first flight." "Did you have a nice flight? Attendant like you?" Ethan asked, a hint of a smile appearing. Lily smiled back. "I did. Her name was Ms. Rose, and she let me sit in the galley and taught me how to fold the napkins into swans." As if on cue, Lily took Ethan's napkin and began folding it with practiced hands. Ethan watched, mesmerized, as the simple square transformed into a recognizable bird shape. "That's so cool," he exclaimed, his voice rising above a whisper for the first time. A few nearby passengers glanced their way, some smiling at the child's delight. "Want to learn?" Lily asked. For the next 20 minutes, Lily taught Ethan how to fold napkin swans. His first attempts were misshapen, barely recognizable, as birds, but he persisted with a determination that made Lily smile. By his 5th try, he had created something that undeniably resembled a swan. "I'm going to show this to Dad when I see him," Ethan declared, carefully tucking his best creation into his backpack. "I bet he'll be impressed," Lily agreed, noticing, with satisfaction, that Ethan's tears were completely gone now. "What else do you like to do for fun?" This simple question opened a floodgate. Suddenly, Ethan was chattering about his love for building with Legos, his soccer team, he was the goalie, and his favorite video games. Lily listened attentively, asking questions that showed genuine interest, delighting in the transformation of the tearful boy into this animated child. "Miss," the lead flight attendant appeared at their row, her expression a mixture of concern and annoyance. "We need to continue with service. There are passengers waiting." "Of course," Lily replied professionally. She turned to Ethan. "I need to help the other passengers now, but I'll check on you again soon, okay?" Ethan's face fell slightly, but he nodded bravely. "Okay. Why don't you try the movies on the screen?" Lily suggested, helping him navigate to the children's section. "Look, they have Cosmic Explorers 3. You mentioned that was your favorite." Ethan's eyes lit up as he recognized the title, and he eagerly put on the headphones. Lily smiled and returned to her duties, aware of the lead flight attendant's disapproving gaze following her. "We're short-staffed as it is," the woman said quietly as they walked back toward the galley. "We can't have you spending that much time with one passenger, even if he is a child." "He was distressed," Lily explained. "Unaccompanied minor. First flight. Parents recently divorced." "I understand that," the lead replied, her tone softening slightly. "But we have responsibilities to all passengers. Just try to be more efficient with your time." Lily nodded, though inwardly she felt a flash of frustration. In her view, Comforting a frightened child was exactly what her job should be about, not just efficiently distributing drinks and collecting trash. For the next hour, Lily threw herself into her duties with practiced efficiency, though her thoughts kept returning to Ethan. She managed quick check-ins, popping by his seat between tasks, to give him a thumbs up or a wink. Each time he would beam at her, his earlier distress seemingly forgotten as he watched his movie. During a brief lull in service, Lily found herself in the back galley with Rick, one of the other flight attendants. "Rough flight," he commented, rubbing his lower back. "The turbulence, the full cabin, and now the coffee makers on the fritz." "At least the kid in 14F has settled down," Lily replied, quickly preparing a fresh pot of coffee. "He was having a really hard time earlier." "I noticed," Rick said. "You have a way with kids." I would have just handed him some juice and moved on. "Sometimes people just need a little extra attention," Lily shrugged. "Especially kids flying alone." "Well, the lead wasn't thrilled about it," Rick warned. "Just between us, she made a comment about writing it up in the flight report." Lily felt her stomach tighten. A negative note in her file was the last thing she needed, especially since she was hoping to apply for a senior position soon. Still, she couldn't bring herself to regret the time she'd spent with Ethan. As they hit the halfway mark of the flight, the captain announced another patch of expected turbulence. Lily immediately thought of Ethan and, despite the lead's warning, made her way to his row as soon as the announcement finished. Ethan had dozed off, his headphones askew, Buddy clutched loosely in his arms. The movie played on, unwatched. Lily gently adjusted his seatbelt to make sure it was secure, then carefully removed the headphones so they wouldn't hurt his ears if the plane jostled. The woman in the aisle seat gave Lily an appreciative smile. "You've been so good with him," she whispered. "My grandson is about his age. I know how challenging they can be, especially when they're upset." "He's a sweet kid," Lily replied, "just having a tough day." As predicted, the plane soon entered another rough patch. Ethan woke with a start as the aircraft dropped suddenly, his eyes wide with renewed fear. "It's okay," Lily assured him, having anticipated this reaction and positioned herself nearby. "Remember what I told you about bumpy roads in the sky?" Ethan nodded, but his bottom lip quivered dangerously. "When will it stop?" "Soon," Lily promised. "In the meantime, would you like to see something special?" Curiosity temporarily overcame his fear. "What?" Lily pulled her personal tablet from her uniform pocket. It was against company policy to use personal devices during flight hours, but technically she was still on her break. She pulled up a flight tracking app that showed their position over the United States. "See this little airplane? That's us," she explained, showing him the screen. "And look how far we've already come from New York. We're already more than halfway to Los Angeles." Ethan studied the map with intense concentration. "We're over mountains?" "The Rocky Mountains," Lily confirmed. "Some of the biggest mountains in America. And look, we're flying right over them, like we're on top of the world." The idea seemed to delight him. "Can we see them?" "If the clouds clear, maybe," Lily said. "Let me check." She leaned across him to peer out the window. "Look there. See those peaks poking through the clouds? Those are the Rockies." Ethan pressed his face to the window, momentarily forgetting his fear as he gazed at the magnificent mountain range below. The plane continued to bounce through turbulent air, but Ethan hardly seemed to notice now, too entranced by the view. Lily pulled up photos of Los Angeles on her tablet and began showing them to Ethan, pointing out places he might visit with his father, the famous beaches, the Hollywood sign, the amusement parks. With each image, Ethan's excitement grew, and the fear that had gripped him earlier seemed to melt away completely. "Dad said we might go to the big amusement park with all the movie characters," Ethan shared, his voice now animated. "He said he has special tickets that let you skip all the lines." "That sounds amazing," Lily replied. "You'll have to tell me all about it if we see each other on your flight back home." "Will you be on my plane when I go back to Mom?" Ethan asked hopefully. "I'm not sure," Lily admitted. "Flight attendants work different routes all the time. but maybe if we're lucky. The lead flight attendant appeared again, her expression leaving no room for interpretation this time. "We're beginning meal service," she said tersely. "All hands needed." Lily nodded, turning back to Ethan. "Duty calls. I'll bring your lunch soon. Any allergies I should know about?" "I don't like tomatoes," Ethan offered seriously. Lily laughed. "I'll make sure to keep those far away from your tray." As she worked through the meal service, Lily found herself enjoying the flight despite its challenges. There was something about connecting with Ethan that had reminded her why she'd become a flight attendant in the first place. Not just to travel the world, but to make a difference in people's experiences, even if just for a few hours at 35,000 feet. When she reached Ethan's row with the meal cart, she made a small ceremony of presenting his tray, announcing in a formal voice, "Lunch is served, good sir. Carefully prepared without a single tomato in sight." Ethan giggled, and even the lead flight attendant who was working the other aisle couldn't suppress a small smile at the sound. Throughout the meal service, other passengers began to notice the special rapport between Lily and the young boy. Several commented on her kindness, and one elderly gentleman even stopped her to say, "You've made that little fellow's day. It's nice to see someone care so much." As the flight progressed into its final hours, Lily continued checking on Ethan between her regular duties. She brought him extra snacks, taught him how to spot different cloud formations, and even introduced him to the pilots during a quick cockpit visit that she'd arranged. A rare treat, the econ drinks had made Ethan's eyes grow wide with wonder. "This is the coolest day ever," he declared as they returned to his seat. "Better than you expected?" Lily asked, helping him back into his seatbelt. "Way better," Ethan nodded firmly. "I was so scared this morning. Mom had to almost push me onto the plane. But now I think flying is awesome." "That makes me really happy to hear," Lily said, genuinely touched. "Sometimes the things we're most afraid of turn out to be not so scary after all." As the captain announced their initial descent into Los Angeles, Lily found herself feeling strangely wistful. In just a few short hours, she had formed a genuine connection with this child, one that had apparently transformed his fear into excitement. It was moments like these that made the difficult parts of her job worthwhile. "We'll be landing soon," she told Ethan during her final check. "Are you excited to see your dad?" "Yes," Ethan said, though a flash of uncertainty crossed his face. But what?" Lily prompted gently. "I haven't seen him in a long time," Ethan admitted. "What if he's different? What if he doesn't like me anymore?" The question broke Lily's heart. "Oh, Ethan," she said softly, crouching in the aisle beside his seat. "Parents don't stop loving their children even when they live far away. I'm sure your dad has been counting down the days until he could see you again." "Really?" Ethan asked, his voice small. "Really," Lily assured him. "And you know what? You're going to have an amazing 2 weeks, and then before you know it, you'll be flying back home to your mom and telling her all about your adventures." This seemed to comfort Ethan, and as the plane descended through the clouds over Los Angeles, his face was pressed against the window once more, taking in the sprawling city below with wide-eyed wonder. The landing was smooth, and as passengers began gathering their belongings and filing toward the exit, Lily approached Ethan one last time. As an unaccompanied minor, he would be the last to deplane, escorted by a flight attendant to meet his waiting parent. "Ready for your big adventure?" Lily asked, helping him collect his things. Ethan nodded, clutching Buddy in one hand and his backpack in the other. "Thank you for being nice to me," he said simply. "It was my pleasure," Lily replied with a warm smile. "Truly." Little did she know as she led Ethan from the aircraft that this chance encounter with a tearful boy would set in motion events that would change the course of her career and her life forever. The Los Angeles International Airport buzzed with the usual afternoon chaos. Travelers rushed to make connections, families reunited in emotional embraces, and airline staff navigated the crowds with practiced efficiency. Amid this controlled chaos, Lily guided Ethan through the terminal, his small hand firmly in hers. "Normally I'd hand you off to another staff member," Lily explained as they walked. But since I have a 4-hour layover, I got permission to escort you myself. Ethan beamed up at her. That's good. I don't want to meet someone new. According to procedure, unaccompanied minors were typically transferred to a ground crew member who would then deliver them to their waiting guardian. But Lily had pulled some strings, wanting to see this journey through to its end. The lead flight attendant hadn't been pleased about the special treatment but couldn't find a legitimate reason to refuse. As they approached the meeting point where parents typically waited, Lily was surprised when a uniformed airline employee intercepted them. "Ethan Wilson?" the young man asked, consulting his tablet. "Yes, that's him," Lily confirmed, feeling Ethan's grip tighten on her hand. "I'm Mike from VIP Services," the man explained. "Mr. Wilson is waiting in our private lounge. If you'll follow me?" Lily exchanged a puzzled glance with Ethan, who shrugged, seemingly as confused as she was. VIP lounges were typically reserved for first-class passengers or elite status members, certainly not the standard meeting place for unaccompanied minors. "Is that normal procedure?" she asked, as they followed Mike through the terminal. "For Mr. Wilson, yes," Mike replied cryptically, leading them away from the main concourse and down a less crowded hallway. They approached a discreet door marked simply Private Lounge, with no airline branding visible. Mike swiped his badge and the door opened to reveal an elegantly appointed room that looked more like a high-end hotel suite than an airport lounge. Plush leather seating, soft lighting, and floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the airfield created an atmosphere of understated luxury. The room was empty except for one man who stood as they entered. He was tall and distinguished, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit that even Lily's untrained eye could tell was expensive. His dark hair was touched with gray at the temples, and his posture radiated quiet authority. "Dad." Ethan's face lit up with genuine joy. He dropped Lily's hand and ran across the room. The man's serious expression transformed instantly, warmth flooding his features as he crouched down to catch his son in a tight embrace. "There's my boy," he said, his voice deep and gentle. "I've missed you so much." Lily stood awkwardly by the door, feeling like an intruder on this private moment. She should leave, she knew. Her duty was fulfilled. Yet something kept her rooted to the spot, perhaps curiosity about this man who rated VIP treatment and whose son had been so afraid he wouldn't be loved. After a long moment, Ethan pulled back from the hug. "Dad, this is Lily," he announced, turning to point at her. "She made the whole flight awesome. She taught me to make napkin swans and showed me the Rocky Mountains and let me meet the pilots." Mr. Wilson straightened and turned his attention to Lily for the first time. His gaze was appraising but not unkind. "Thank you for taking care of my son," he said, stepping forward to shake her hand. His grip was firm, his palm warm and dry. "Robert Wilson." "Lily Chen," she replied automatically. "It was my pleasure, truly. Ethan is a wonderful boy." "Dad, Lily was like me when she was little," Ethan interjected, tugging on his father's sleeve. "Her parents got divorced too, and she had to fly alone to see her dad. And she was scared just like me, but then she became a flight attendant, which is the coolest job ever because you get to fly every day and help people who are scared." Robert Wilson's expression softened as he looked from his enthusiastic son back to Lily. "It sounds like you went above and beyond," he said. Lily felt a blush creeping up her neck. "Just doing my job, Mr. Wilson." "Please, call me Robert," he insisted. Then, with a glance at his watch, "Do you have time for some refreshments before your next flight? I'd like to properly thank you for your kindness to Ethan." Lily hesitated. She did have several hours before her return flight, but accepting social invitations from passengers wasn't typically done. Then again, this wasn't a typical situation. "Dad makes the best chocolate milk," Ethan whispered loudly, as if sharing a state secret. Lily laughed. "Well, in that case, how can I refuse? I do have a few hours." Robert gestured toward the comfortable seating area. "Please, make yourself comfortable." As Lily settled into a plush leather armchair, she took in more details of the lounge. The artwork on the walls was original, not the generic prints found in most airport facilities. A fully stocked bar occupied one corner, and a dining table was set with fine china and crystal, looking ready for a business lunch rather than airport fare. Robert pressed a button on a discreet panel, and within moments, a staff member appeared. "Thomas, could we get some refreshments, chocolate milk for my son and—" He glanced at Lily. "Just water, please," she requested, suddenly conscious of her uniform and professional responsibilities. "And I'll have coffee," Robert finished. "Also, could you bring some of those cookies Ethan likes?" "Of course, Mr. Wilson," Thomas replied with a slight bow before disappearing. "So, Lily," Robert began, loosening his tie slightly as he sat opposite her, "Ethan tells me you saved the day." Before Lily could respond, Ethan jumped in. "She really did, Dad. I was crying and everything was scary and the plane kept jumping around, but Lily sat with me and told me stories and showed me her special tablet with cool games that the other passengers don't get to see." Robert raised an eyebrow at this last detail. "Your personal device?" Lily shifted uncomfortably. "Yes, technically against protocol, but he was quite upset during the turbulence." Rather than seeming disapproving, Robert looked impressed. "Sometimes, rules need flexibility when dealing with people, especially children. Too many forget that." Thomas returned with their drinks and a plate of gourmet cookies. Ethan immediately grabbed two, dunking one enthusiastically in his chocolate milk. "Ethan, manners," Robert reminded gently. "Sorry," the boy mumbled through, a mouthful of cookie crumbs. Lily smiled, charmed by the normalcy of the interaction. Despite the luxurious surroundings and VIP treatment, they were just a father and son getting reacquainted after time apart. "How long have you been with Skyward Airlines?" Robert asked, sipping his coffee. 8 years, Lily replied. "Started right after college." "And do you enjoy it?" "Most days," she said honestly. "I love traveling, meeting people, helping make their journeys more pleasant. Some days are harder than others, of course." "Any particular challenges?" The question seemed casual, but Robert's gaze was attentive, almost as if this were a job interview rather than polite conversation. Lily considered her answer carefully. "The industry has changed. Everything's about efficiency now. How many passengers you can process, how quickly you can complete service, so sometimes it feels like we've forgotten that we're dealing with humans, not cargo." As soon as the words left her mouth, Lily regretted them. Complaining about her employer to a passenger, even one as seemingly sympathetic as Robert, was unprofessional, but Robert nodded thoughtfully. "An interesting observation. What would you change if you could?" The question caught Lily off guard. "That's a big question." "I'm genuinely curious," Robert insisted. "From your perspective on the front lines, so to speak. Maybe it was Ethan's presence making the conversation feel more casual than it was. Or perhaps it was the rare opportunity to speak freely to someone who seemed genuinely interested, but Lily found herself opening up. "I'd refocus on passenger experience," she said after a moment's thought. "Especially for those who need extra attention. Children traveling alone, elderly passengers, people with anxieties or special needs. The current metrics don't value that kind of care. You get the same performance rating whether you hand a frightened child a juice box and move on, or take the time to actually comfort them." Robert's eyes hadn't left her face. "Interesting. Go on." "And I'd rethink crew training," Lily continued, warming to the subject. "Right now it's all about emergency procedures and service protocols, which are important, of course. But there's almost nothing about empathy, about reading passengers and understanding what they might need beyond the basics. Like knowing when a child needs more than just a drink and a snack," Robert suggested, glancing at Ethan, who was now happily occupied with a tablet that Thomas had brought him. "Exactly," Lily nodded. "Or recognizing when an elderly passenger is confused rather than being difficult, or when someone's fear of flying is manifesting as rudeness." "You've given this some thought," Robert observed. Lily laughed self-consciously. "Sorry for the impromptu TED Talk, it's just something I care about." "No need to apologize, it's refreshing to hear someone speak passionately about their work." Robert leaned back in his chair, regarding her with what seemed like newfound respect. "Have you considered moving into a management position where you could implement some of these ideas?" "I've applied for senior positions a few times," Lily admitted. Never made it past the first round of interviews. I think my file has too many notes about inefficient time management and failure to adhere strictly to protocol, like spending extra time with a scared child instead of serving second drinks, Robert surmised. Something like that, Lily agreed. Their conversation was interrupted by Ethan, who had abandoned his tablet and was now standing beside his father's chair. Dad, can Lily come with us to the amusement park tomorrow? She's never been, and I told her all about the special tickets you have that let us skip the lines. Robert smiled indulgently at his son. Lily has to work, Ethan. She'll be flying back to New York soon. Actually, Lily interjected, I have 2 days off before my next scheduled flight. The word surprised even her. Why had she said that? She wasn't angling for an invitation. See, Dad? She can come. Ethan's excitement was palpable. Ethan, we can't just assume Lily wants to spend her free time with us, Robert said gently. I'm sure she has plans of her own in Los Angeles. Not really, Lily admitted, then quickly added, but I wouldn't want to impose on your time together. This is your special visit. Robert studied her for a moment, seeming to consider something. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and produced a business card, offering it to her. If you find yourself with free time and would like to join us, give me a call. We'd be happy to have you along, wouldn't we, Ethan? Yes, Ethan agreed enthusiastically. Please come, Lily. Lily accepted, the card glancing down at it. The design was minimalist, just Robert's name, a phone number, and a small logo she didn't recognize. No company name, no title. Thank you, she said, tucking the card into her uniform pocket. That's very kind. I'll think about it. A discreet knock at the door preceded Thomas's return. Mr. Wilson, your car is ready whenever you are. Thank you, Thomas. Robert stood, straightening his jacket. Well, we should be going. Ethan has been up since dawn for his flight, and I'm sure he's tired. I'm not tired, Ethan protested immediately, though Lily noticed him stifling a yawn. Of course not, Robert agreed with a wink toward Lily. But I am, so we should head home. Lily rose as well, suddenly aware of how much time had passed. I should get back to the terminal too. My crew will be wondering where I disappeared to. Ethan launched himself at Lily, wrapping his arms around her waist in a tight hug. Thank you for making flying not scary, he said, his voice muffled against her uniform. Lily hugged him back, genuinely touched. You're very welcome, Ethan. Maybe I'll see you on your flight home. Or tomorrow at the park, he added hopefully. Maybe, Lily said non-committally, though she had no real intention of calling the number on Robert's card. Pleasant as this had been, she knew better than to blur the lines between professional and personal relationships with passengers. Robert extended his hand again. It was a pleasure meeting you, Lily. Thank you again for looking after Ethan so well. As they shook hands, Lily noticed for the first time a subtle pin on Robert's lapel, a small stylized wing that looked vaguely familiar, though she couldn't place it. The pleasure was mine, she replied. Enjoy your time together. As Lily made her way back through the terminal toward the crew lounge, she found herself oddly affected by the encounter. There had been something almost surreal about the whole experience. The VIP lounge, Robert's intense interest in her thoughts about the airline industry, the casual invitation. It was as if she'd stepped briefly into a different world, one of privilege and possibility that existed alongside her own, but rarely intersected with it. Checking her phone, she saw several messages from Rick and other crew members, wondering where she'd disappeared to. She texted a quick reply. Had to escort the unaccompanied minor back soon. As she waited for the crew shuttle to take her to the hotel, Lily found herself fingering the business card in her pocket. Despite her resolution not to call, she found herself curious about Robert Wilson. Who was he that he rated such VIP treatment? Some kind of executive, obviously, but for which company? On impulse, she pulled out her phone and typed his name into a search engine. The results made her breath catch. Robert Wilson, CEO of Wilson Global Investments. Major shareholder in numerous companies. Estimated net worth, billions. And there, several entries down. Wilson acquires controlling interest in Skyward Airlines. Lily stared at her phone screen in disbelief. The boy whose tears she had dried, whose fears she had soothed, was the son of the man who essentially owned the airline she worked for. She had spent the afternoon casually critiquing company policy to the very person who could change it or fire her. The crew shuttle pulled up and Lily boarded automatically, her mind still reeling from the discovery. As the vehicle pulled away from the curb, she glanced back at the terminal building, wondering what tomorrow might bring. Little did she know that Robert Wilson was already making phone calls that would forever change the course of her career. Dying. Morning sun streamed through the thin curtains of Lily's hotel room, casting long rectangles of light across the bland carpet. She'd been awake for hours, sleep having eluded her after yesterday's revelation. The business card Robert Wilson had given her lay on the nightstand, where she'd placed it the night before after taking it out and putting it back in her pocket, at least a dozen times. Her phone chimed with a text from Rick. "Breakfast in the lobby? Crew meeting at 10. Lily replied with a quick affirmative, then showered and dressed in casual clothes, grateful for a day free from her uniform. As she was about to leave the room, her gaze fell once more on Robert's card. After a moment's hesitation, she slipped it into her jeans pocket. Not that she intended to use it, but somehow leaving it behind felt wrong. The hotel lobby was bustling with airline crews coming and going. Lily spotted Rick at a table near the complimentary breakfast buffet, along with 2 other crew members from yesterday's flight. "There she is, the child whisperer." Rick greeted her with a grin. "You disappeared so fast yesterday we thought you might have hitched a ride to Disneyland with the kid." Lily forced a laugh, filling her plate with fruit and yogurt. "Just doing my job." "Well, the lead wasn't thrilled," added Patricia, another flight attendant. "Kept muttering about protocols and time management all the way to the hotel." Lily sighed, taking a seat. "I know. I'll probably find another note in my file." "Worth it, though, right?" Rick asked, more serious now. That little boy looked like a different kid by the end of the flight. "Definitely worth it," Lily agreed, though her stomach knotted at the thought of another negative notation just when she'd been hoping to apply for promotion again. Their conversation shifted to plans for their day off, with Patricia and the 4th crew member Dan planning to hit Venice Beach while Rick was meeting an old friend for lunch. "What about you, Lily?" Dan asked. "Coming to the beach? You could use some color." Lily touched her pale cheek self-consciously. "Maybe. I haven't decided yet." In truth, the thought of Robert's invitation kept intruding on her attempts to make plans. She'd looked up the amusement park online last night. Tickets were shockingly expensive, the kind of splurge she rarely allowed herself on a flight attendant's salary. And the chance to see the park, with VIP access, earth to Lily. Rick waved a hand in front of her face. "You okay? You seem distracted." "Just tired," she replied quickly. "Didn't sleep well." After breakfast, the crew dispersed to their various activities, with promises to meet for dinner that evening. Lily found herself alone in the lobby, still indecisive. Almost without conscious thought, her hand went to her pocket, fingers closing around Robert's business card. Before she could second-guess herself, she pulled out her phone and dialed the number. It rang twice before Robert's deep voice answered. "Wilson." Hello, Mr. Wilson. Robert?" Lily stammered, suddenly feeling foolish. "This is Lily Chen from the flight yesterday, Ethan's flight attendant." "Lily." Robert's tone warmed immediately. "I'm glad you called. Ethan's been asking all morning if you might join us." "If the offer still stands, I'd love to," Lily said, surprising herself with her boldness. "Of course. We're just about to leave the house. Can we pick you up somewhere?" 20 minutes later, Lily was waiting outside her hotel when a sleek, black SUV with tinted windows pulled to the curb. The driver, a professional-looking woman in a dark suit, exited and opened the rear passenger door with a courteous nod. "Miss Chen, Mr. Wilson is expecting you." Lily slid into the luxurious vehicle to find Ethan bouncing excitedly on the leather seat beside his father. "You came. You really came," the boy exclaimed, his face lighting up with genuine joy. "I did," Lily smiled, touched by his enthusiasm. I couldn't pass up a chance to see this famous amusement park I've heard so much about. Robert extended his hand in greeting. He looked more relaxed today in dark jeans and a simple button-down shirt, though his watch and shoes still spoke of understated wealth. "We're glad you could join us," he said, his smile reaching his eyes. "Aren't we, Ethan?" "So glad," Ethan agreed fervently. "I told Dad all about you last night, even about how you let me use your tablet when you weren't supposed to." Lily shot an alarmed glance at Robert, who laughed. "Don't worry, your secret's safe with us. I'm a firm believer that rules sometimes need to be broken for the right reasons." The drive to the amusement park took about 40 minutes, during which Ethan kept up a steady stream of chatter about all the rides and attractions he wanted to see. Lily found herself relaxing, drawn in by the boy's infectious excitement and Robert's easy manner. There was no mention of his position or her unwitting criticism of the airline's policies, for which she was grateful. When they arrived at the park, Lily braced herself for the usual entry process. Long lines, crowded turnstiles, the controlled chaos of thousands of visitors funneling through security checks. Instead, their driver took them to a discreet side entrance marked VIP Access Only. A park employee in a pressed uniform greeted them by name. "Mr. Wilson, Ethan, welcome back." "And this must be Ms. Chen?" "That's right, Doug," Robert confirmed. "Lily's our special guest today." "Excellent, please follow me." They were led through the entrance and immediately assigned a personal guide, a cheerful young woman named Megan, who explained that she would be escorting them throughout the park, ensuring priority access to all attractions. "Is this how you usually visit?" Lily whispered to Robert as they followed Megan and Ethan toward the first ride. "When time is limited, yes," he admitted. "I know it seems excessive, but with only 2 weeks with Ethan, I try to maximize our enjoyment rather than spending hours in lines." Put that way, it made perfect sense. Still, Lily couldn't help feeling like an imposter in this world of privilege, where obstacles that most people simply accepted as part of life were smoothly removed. The day unfolded like a dream. They moved effortlessly from one attraction to another, bypassing lines that sometimes stretched for over an hour. Ethan was in his element, his earlier anxieties completely forgotten as he dragged Lily by the hand to show her his favorite rides and characters. For her part, Lily found herself enjoying the day more than she'd expected. There was something liberating about experiencing the park this way, focusing on the fun without the usual frustrations. And watching Ethan's unbridled joy was its own reward. Robert, too, was a revelation. Away from the formal setting of the airport lounge, he was warm and attentive, clearly devoted to his son. He laughed freely, indulged Ethan's whims within reason, and seemed genuinely pleased by Lily's presence. Several times she caught him watching her interactions with Ethan with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. During a brief respite while Ethan was getting his face painted as his favorite superhero, Robert and Lily sat at a nearby table, sipping cold drinks in the warm California sun. "Thank you for this," Lily said sincerely. "It's been amazing." "We should be thanking you," Robert replied. "Ethan hasn't stopped talking about you since he got off that plane. You really made an impression." Lily felt a flush of pleasure at his words. "He's a special kid." "Yes, he is." Robert's expression grew more serious. "His mother and our separation hasn't been easy on him. This is the first time he's flown out to see me. She was worried he wouldn't handle it well." "He did wonderfully," Lily assured him. "Once he got past the initial fear, children are remarkably resilient." Robert nodded thoughtfully. "You know, I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday, about your ideas for improving passenger experience." Lily tensed slightly, unsure where this was going. "About that, I hope I didn't speak out of turn. I had no idea who you were." "That's precisely why your feedback was so valuable," Robert said. "You were completely candid. No agendas, no attempts to impress the boss or advance a departmental position. Just honest observations from someone on the front lines." Before Lily could respond, Ethan bounded back to their table, his face transformed into a reasonable facsimile of a masked superhero. "Look, isn't it awesome?" "Very fearsome," Robert agreed with appropriate gravity. I feel safer already knowing you're protecting us. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of rides, shows, and treats. By early evening, even Ethan's seemingly boundless energy was beginning to flag. As they sat watching a parade of colorful characters, the boy leaned sleepily against his father's side. "I think someone's reaching his limit," Robert observed, ruffling his son's hair fondly. "What do you say we head back, buddy?" "Not tired," Ethan protested automatically, though his drooping eyelids suggested otherwise. "Of course not," Robert agreed with a wink at Lily. "But I am, and I'm sure Lily is too. We can come back another day." This reasonable compromise seemed to satisfy Ethan, who allowed himself to be guided toward the park exit, still clutching the stuffed character he'd chosen as a souvenir. The ride back to Lily's hotel was quiet, with Ethan dozing against his father's shoulder in the plush back seat of the SUV. As they approached her hotel, Robert gently shifted his sleeping son and leaned forward. "Lily, I'd like to talk to you about something important, but this isn't the right moment," he said in a low voice, gesturing toward Ethan. "Would you be available for breakfast tomorrow before your crew meeting? Say 8 a.m. at your hotel restaurant?" Lily's pulse quickened. Was this about her job? Had her candid criticism yesterday been a bigger misstep than she realized? "Of course," she managed, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'll be there." The SUV pulled up to her hotel, and the driver once again came around to open her door. "Thank you for today," Lily said as she prepared to exit. "It was truly special." "Thank you for coming," Robert replied with a warm smile. "It meant a lot to Ethan, and to me." Ethan stirred slightly at the sound of his name. "Bye, Lily," he mumbled sleepily. "Best day ever." "Goodbye, Ethan," she whispered, oddly touched by his drowsy declaration. "Sweet dreams." Back in her room, Lily found messages from her crewmates wondering where she'd disappeared to. She sent a vague reply about exploring the city, not quite ready to explain her day with the airline's owner and his son. As she prepared for bed, her mind raced with possibilities about tomorrow's meeting. Was Robert going to reprimand her for her criticisms? Unlikely, given his apparent interest in her ideas. Was it something about Ethan? Perhaps he wanted to arrange for her to be on the return flight when the boy flew back to his mother. Sleep came fitfully, and Lily woke before her alarm, nervous energy propelling her through her morning routine. She arrived at the hotel restaurant at 7:50, choosing a quiet table in the corner. At precisely 8 a.m., Robert Wilson walked in. He was alone and dressed in business attire once again. The casual father from yesterday replaced by the polished executive. Several heads turned as he crossed the restaurant, his presence commanding attention even from those who wouldn't recognize him. "Lily," he greeted her with a firm handshake. "Thank you for meeting me." "Of course," she replied, trying to project a calm she didn't feel. "Is Ethan still sleeping?" "Out like a light. Yesterday was quite an adventure for him." Robert smiled, briefly. Then his expression grew more serious as he took the seat opposite her. "I'll get straight to the point. I've spent the last 24 hours doing some research." Lily's stomach tightened. "Research? On you," Robert clarified. "I had my team pull your employment file from Skyward Airlines. 8 years of service, consistently positive passenger feedback, several commendations for handling difficult situations, and, as you mentioned, multiple notations about inefficient time management and failure to adhere to protocol." Lily swallowed hard. "I see. What's interesting, Roby," Sarti continued, "is the pattern. Almost every negative notation relates to instances where you prioritized passenger comfort or needs over procedural efficiency, spending extra time helping an elderly passenger find a connecting gate, arranging a birthday celebration for a child traveling on their birthday, comforting a nervous first-time flyer during turbulence." He paused, studying her face. "In other words, you've been penalized repeatedly for doing exactly what I believe should be at the core of our business, treating passengers like people, not processing units." Relief flooded through Lily, followed by confusion. "Thank you for understanding, but why are you telling me this?" Robert leaned forward, his gaze intense. "Because I want to offer you a job, Lily. A new position that doesn't currently exist at Skyward Airlines, but should. Director of Passenger Experience." Lily blinked, certain she had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "Skyward has been focused on operational metrics for too long," Robert explained. "On-time departures, fuel efficiency, turnaround times, all important. But we've lost sight of the human element that differentiates a good airline from a great one. I want to change that, and I believe you're the person to help me do it." "But I'm just a flight attendant," Lily protested. "I don't have management experience or an MBA or—" "What you have is more valuable," Robert interrupted gently. 8 years of direct passenger contact. Real-world understanding of what makes a difference in people's travel experiences, and most importantly, genuine empathy and a willingness to act on it, even when it's inconvenient or against protocol. He slid a folder across the table. "This contains an outline of what I envision for the position, along with compensation details. The salary is triple what you're currently making, with appropriate benefits and relocation assistance to our headquarters." Lily's head was spinning. She opened the folder and caught a glimpse of numbers that made her breath catch. "This couldn't be real. Why me?" she asked finally, looking up from the paperwork. "You must have access to dozens of consultants and executives with far more experience." Robert's expression softened. "Because my son cried for the entire first hour of that flight and not one crew member noticed or cared until you did. Because you saw a frightened child instead of just another unaccompanied minor to be processed. Because you broke rules that needed breaking to do what was right." He paused, then added more quietly, "And because when Ethan came off that plane, he wasn't talking about how scary it was or how much he missed his mother. He was talking about you and how you made him feel safe. That's the kind of experience I want every passenger on Skyward to have, the feeling that they matter as individuals." Lily sat in stunned silence, the enormity of the offer slowly sinking in. "You don't need to decide right now," Robert said, checking his watch. "Take the day to think it over. Read through the details. I'll be in meetings until this evening, but you can reach me on my cell with any questions or to give me your decision." He stood, extending his hand once more. "One more thing. Ethan wanted me to ask if you'd join us for dinner tonight, regardless of your decision about the job. He's quite taken with you." Lily rose and shook his hand automatically, still dazed. "I'd like that." As Robert walked away, Lily sank back into her chair, the folder open before her. Just yesterday morning, she had been a flight attendant bracing for another negative note in her file. Now she was being offered a position that could transform not just her career, but potentially the experience of thousands of passengers, all because she'd taken the time to comfort a crying boy on a plane, never knowing that his father owned the airline. Her phone chimed with a message from Rick reminding her of the crew meeting. Lily gathered the folder and headed toward the meeting room, her mind already made up, though she wasn't quite ready to admit it to herself. Some opportunities were too perfect to pass up, especially when they aligned so precisely with what she'd always believed her job should be about. And perhaps there was another factor in her decision, one she wasn't quite ready to examine too closely. The memory of Ethan's joy when she'd agreed to join them at the amusement park, and the warmth in Robert's eyes when he'd thanked her for coming. Some connections, it seemed, were destined to change lives in ways no one could predict. 6 months later, Lily stood at the podium in Skyward Airlines' largest conference room, facing an audience of executives, managers, and selected frontline staff. Behind her, a large screen displayed the words, "Passenger Experience Initiative, First Quarter, Results." "As you can see from the data," Lily continued, gesturing to the chart now appearing on the screen, "passenger satisfaction scores have increased by 23% across all routes where the new protocols have been implemented. More significantly, customer loyalty, measured by repeat bookings, has risen by 17%. She clicked to the next slide, which showed a comparison of Skyward's performance against its major competitors. The company's line showed a steep upward trajectory, while the others remained relatively flat. But numbers only tell part of the story, Lily said, setting down her presentation remote. The real measure of our success is in the experiences of our passengers. With a nod to the tech coordinator, the screen changed to show a video montage. An elderly man beaming as a flight attendant helped him FaceTime with his grandchild for the first time. A nervous first-time flyer receiving a Brave Traveler certificate after a bumpy flight. A young mother's relieved smile as a crew member walked her colicky baby in the aisle, giving her a much-needed break. The final clip showed a teenage girl, traveling alone, being taught to fold a napkin into the shape of a swan by her flight attendant. It was a deliberate echo of Lily's interaction with Ethan, now formalized into a special program for young travelers. As the video ended, the room erupted into applause. Lily felt a flush of pride as she glanced toward the back of the room, where Robert Wilson stood, nodding his approval. Beside him, Ethan, visiting his father for the weekend, gave her an enthusiastic thumbs up. The past 6 months had been the most challenging and rewarding of Lily's professional life. After accepting Robert's offer that day in Los Angeles, she had relocated to company headquarters and thrown herself into creating what was now being hailed as an industry-leading approach to passenger service. There had been resistance, of course. Veteran executives questioned the allocation of resources to soft metrics like passenger comfort rather than operational efficiency. Middle managers balked at retraining requirements and new evaluation criteria that valued empathy alongside procedure. But Robert had stood firmly behind her, providing both the authority and resources she needed to implement her vision. And gradually, as the results began to show in both customer feedback and the bottom line, the skeptics had come around. "Thank you, Director Chen, for that excellent presentation," said Howard Mercer, the company's COO, joining her at the podium. "I think I speak for the entire executive team when I say that the Passenger Experience Initiative has exceeded our most optimistic projections." This was a particularly sweet moment for Lily, as Mercer had been one of her most vocal critics initially. His endorsement now in front of the entire management team represented a significant victory. "We'll take a 15-minute break before continuing with departmental breakout sessions," Mercer announced to the room. "Please help yourselves to refreshments in the atrium." As the audience filed out, Robert and Ethan made their way toward Lily. At 10 years old now, Ethan had grown taller in the months since their first meeting, though he still carried himself with the same infectious enthusiasm. "That was awesome," he declared, giving Lily a quick hug. "I saw myself in the video," Lily laughed. "Not exactly you, but yes, your story was definitely the inspiration." "The presentation was excellent," Robert agreed, his tone more professional, but his eyes warm with pride. "The results speak for themselves." "Thank you for believing in me," Lily replied. "None of this would have happened if you hadn't taken a chance on a flight attendant with no management experience." "One of the best decisions I've made," Robert said simply, "both professionally and personally." The subtle shift in his tone at those last words sent a now familiar warmth through Lily. Their relationship had evolved gradually over the past months, moving from professional to friendly to something more, though both had been careful to maintain appropriate boundaries at work. "Are we still on for dinner tonight?" Ethan asked eagerly. "You promised to help me with my school project about careers." "Absolutely," Lily confirmed. "I wouldn't miss it." "Great. Can we have pizza? Dad said it's up to you since you're the guest." Robert raised an eyebrow. "I believe what I said was we would discuss dinner options together, taking everyone's preferences into account." "Which means pizza," Ethan concluded confidently. Lily laughed. "Pizza sounds perfect to me." "Yes," Ethan pumped, his fist in victory. "I'm going to get a cookie from the atrium. Be right back." As Ethan darted away, Robert took the opportunity to speak more privately. He's really looking forward to tonight. These weekends go by so quickly. "Has it gotten any easier?" Lily asked, gently. "The back and forth?" "Some aspects have," Robert admitted. "The transitions are smoother now that he's used to the routine. His mother and I are communicating better." and having you in his life has been stabilizing. It was the closest either of them had come to acknowledging how their personal relationship had affected Ethan. The boy had taken to Lily immediately, seeing her not just as his father's colleague or girlfriend, but as a trusted adult who had been there for him at a frightening time. "I'm glad," Lily said sincerely. "He's an amazing kid." Robert's expression softened. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you, but I've been waiting for the right moment. After today's success, it seems appropriate." Lily felt her pulse quicken. "Oh?" "The airline is launching the international expansion of your program. Next month, we need someone to oversee the training in our London and Tokyo hubs." "Yes, I've been working on the curriculum." Lily nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. This was about work, not what she'd momentarily hoped it might be. "I'd like you to handle it personally," Robert continued. "It's a 6-week assignment, split between the 2 locations. Normally I wouldn't ask you to be away so long, but this is crucial to get right." "Of course," Lily agreed, professional mode engaging automatically. "I'll start preparing right away." Robert's serious expression gave way to a slight smile. "There's more. Ethan has a school break that coincides with the Tokyo portion of the trip. We were thinking, if you wouldn't mind the company, that we might join you there. Make it a working vacation of sorts." "I'd love that," Lily said, genuine pleasure replacing her earlier disappointment. "Good." Robert glanced around to ensure they weren't being observed, then reached into his pocket. "There's one more thing. I was going to wait until tonight, but, well, I've never been particularly patient." He withdrew a small box and opened it discreetly, angling it so only Lily could see the elegant diamond ring nestled inside. "I'm not proposing here and now. That would come later, privately," he clarified quickly. "But I wanted to know if this is a conversation you'd be open to having, if the timing feels right to you." Lily stared at the ring, then at Robert's face, her professional composure completely abandoned. Yes," she managed finally. "That's definitely a conversation I'd be open to." Relief and joy mingled in Robert's expression. He snapped the box closed and returned it to his pocket just as Ethan bounded back, cookie in hand. "What are you guys talking about?" "You look weird," he observed with a child's directness. "Just work stuff," Robert replied smoothly. "Boring," Ethan declared. "Can we talk about something fun instead? Like how Lily's napkin swan program is the coolest thing ever and should be in every school too?" Lily laughed, grateful for the boy's timely interruption and natural ability to lighten any moment. "That's an interesting idea, actually. Maybe we should develop an educational component." As they chatted, Lily marveled at how completely her life had transformed in just 6 months. From a flight attendant constantly in trouble for caring, too much, to a director implementing company-wide changes that valued that very quality. From a solitary existence punctuated by brief professional interactions to being part of something that increasingly felt like a family. All because she'd noticed a crying child when no one else did. The conference room had nearly emptied now, with attendees mingling in the atrium during the break. Through the glass walls, Lily could see her team members, former flight attendants, customer service representatives, and operations staff she'd personally selected for their exceptional empathy and problem-solving skills. They were the heart of the initiative's success. The ones who had taken her concepts and brought them to life in thousands of daily interactions with passengers. Just as she had done with Ethan, they were proving every day that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could have the most profound impacts. "Director Chen?" A young assistant approached hesitantly. "They're ready to begin the breakout sessions, whenever you are." "Thank you. I'll be right there," Lily responded professionally, then turned back to Robert and Ethan. "Duty calls." "We understand," Robert assured her. "We'll see you tonight." "Pizza," Ethan reminded her with a grin. "Pizza," Lily confirmed, smiling back. As she gathered her materials and headed toward the smaller conference room where her team waited, Lily couldn't help reflecting on the extraordinary chain of events that had led to this moment. A missed alarm clock, a delayed subway, a frightened child on an airplane. Small, seemingly inconsequential occurrences that had aligned to change everything. She thought of all the passengers whose experiences were now being transformed by the initiative she'd created. Each of them with their own stories, their own reasons for traveling, their own fears and hopes and needs. And now, because she'd taken the time to truly see one child's distress, thousands of others would be seen and heard and comforted as well. Was, Lily realized, the most meaningful achievement of her life. Not the promotion or the recognition or even the personal happiness she'd found with Robert and Ethan, wonderful as those things were. It was knowing that her natural impulse to care, to connect, to comfort was now being multiplied across an entire airline, touching countless lives in ways she would never fully know. As she entered the conference room to enthusiastic greetings from